Chapter 288. That's exactly what the commander did. Huh? The commander also did it that way. Kana, repeating herself once more, soon explained what Kishir had done. As soon as someone as tall as Kishir stepped forward, they became incredibly tense. Even the second prince of Nalan seemed worried about a potential conflict, and he attempted to take off the cloak he used to hide his face to explain himself. It was then that someone misunderstood the movement and attacked by mistake. Who? Upon hearing the question from Yidhar, calm in tone but certainly not in intent, Kana blinked. Ah, it was someone who can control sand. They were clumsy in controlling their powers and were abandoned by their family. But don't worry, neither of them were hurt. Only after hearing this did his momentary chilled brain return to its normal state. That's fortunate. According to Kana, Kishir blocked the attack aimed at him and Ajane in a blink of an eye, and the fine but sharp sand particles lost their momentum and spilled onto the ground. Everyone in the village felt a crushing sense of pressure. Even a child crying in the distance instantly ceased their wailing. Such was the impressive force. Even Kana, who had been observing Kishir for a long time within their group, couldn't fully comprehend what he had done. With their eyes meeting the frozen gazes of those who had collapsed from the pressure, he gave Ajane a slow nod. The prince, having received the signal to withdraw, hesitated before slowly backing away. Then a low voice emerged from within Kishir's cloak. I apologize for employing such crude methods, but we are running out of time to uphold our promise. Will you all stay seated and listen to what I have to say? His language was far too elegant for the situation. Ordinary people couldn't fully comprehend the immense power he had unleashed, but the Awakeners were different. They instinctively understood that this overwhelming force was just a small part of what Kishir possessed, and that no one here could defeat him. Will you listen to me? While it seemed like a form of request, it was nothing short of a soft command. In the silence that made it seem like the entire village had disappeared, Kishir briefly explained that they had no connection to the Lord of Thenu. We are aiding the Western Mage Union, and the knights stationed outside the village are our comrades. Our relationship with the distinguished foreign guests here was formed by chance. We are merely helping them return home safely after crossing the treacherous Great Serene Forest. Some traitors showed up and complicated things, but we'd appreciate it if you knew that we are the ones who want to leave this place as soon as possible. The Awakeners in the village had silently understood that the subordinates of Prince Ajane and the injured who arrived at dawn were not from the Empire. Everyone knew about the complex border situation with foreign lands in the Great Serene Forest, and the name of the Western Mage Union had a potent effect. Although the mages of the Western Mage Union didn't know about the village, the Awakeners who have been evading them and establishing their base knew better than anyone about the poor relationship between the mages and the Lord of Thenu. They had been the hidden neighbors who had been observing up close how much trouble the mages had to endure to handle the monsters appearing in the Great Serene Forest in place of the Lord of Thenu. As the year unfolded, rumors had spread that the mages, unable to hold back any longer, had finally erupted in a grand fight against the Lord of Thenu. If someone had called upon others with powers to aid them from another place, the logical conclusion was clear. So, you were mercenaries? No one responded to the words spat out by someone. The Awakeners believed this silence to be an affirmation. The atmosphere rapidly deflated as they surmised that Kishir and the cavalry were mercenary awakeners hired by the Western Mage Union and noblemen from other countries. Watching the scene, Khana breathed a deep sigh of relief inwardly. Impressive. A few words Kishir uttered seemed quite simple, but they were in fact brimming with insight into the hidden thoughts of the awakeners living in this village. They didn't dislike the mages of the Western Mage Union, who were their enemy's enemy, and sympathized with other awakeners who possessed the same powers. They regained their calm swiftly, realizing that they, who had lived ordinary lives until they awakened, had no affiliation with the group they were currently with. So, you're saying you leave the village as soon as we hand over the wounded who came here in the morning? That's correct. You should have said that from the start. Kishir provided proof of his claim right there in front of the awakeners. The group roaming around with menacing swords near the village turned out to be the Peleta Knights. Worried about the encountering assassins, the knights had quickened their pace into the Great Serene Forest, lost Jen in a battle against a peculiar monster, and were in pursuit. Nathan Zuckerman and the Peleta Knights, who unexpectedly ran into their lord in an unexpected place, were surprised, but quickly reassured the villagers' awakeners, matching Kishir's pace and playing along with his words. Information exchanged rapidly among them while the awakeners left the space, having agreed to hand Jen over to Kishir. Oh, Nathan, I didn't expect you to be caught off guard enough to lose that traitor. I'm ashamed to admit it, but we were slowing down by a constant monster attack as soon as we entered the Great Serene Forest. The traitor managed to escape in the confusion of the battle, and one of our company got injured trying to stop him. Even for a sword master like Nathan Zuckerman, it wasn't easy to deal with peculiar monsters while rescuing many people. The worry that Kishir's group might get hurt by assassins chasing a Jain also contributed significantly to the knight's anxiety. As Nathan Zuckerman sighed in relief after seeing his unharmed lord, a Jain and his subordinates came across another subordinate, Melbourne, who was injured while trying to stop the fleeing Jen. Upon meeting his lord after the discovery that he was a spy sent from Nerlan's greatest enemy, Durban, Melbourne remained silent for a while. Melbourne, why did you stop Jen instead of running away with him? Didn't the prince say he would decide Jen's fate once he returned to Nerlan? Although I am a criminal, I didn't want him to witness Jen, who had no shame attempting to defy his final command. I failed, but still. Khana was one of the few who read the sincerity in Melbourne's confession of his loyalty to Prince Ajay. The prince looked at his former subordinate, lying severely wounded, with a complex expression, and sighed. Melbourne, guessing the meaning behind that sigh, lowered his head in a barely audible voice. I heard you have awakened. You have gained power, so no one can harm you, Your Highness. Forget about me, and congratulations. Indeed, you too. Try not to die before we reach Nerlan. Melbourne's eyes widened at those words. The underlings of Ajay, who had been wearing gloomy expressions behind him, also displayed similar surprised expression. In the short span of time, Khana could sense a significant change in Prince Ajay's heart. It wasn't information she could discern through her powers. Then the awakeners brought in the injured man who had been lying down. There were clear signs of a struggle, as if he had anticipated a bleak future. As expected, it was Jen who had fled, and Prince Ajay showed no more merciful reluctance to the man who had betrayed him twice. Now, It's just a matter of us and them each going our separate ways. Yes, if we want to return before tomorrow passes, we will have to be quite busy. When Khanna, feeling a bit complicated but light-hearted, spoke to Kishir, he gave a matter-of-fact response. But why before tomorrow? It seems like it would be very difficult to return to the Western Mage Union base by then. Suddenly curious, Khanna asked only to meet the piercing red gaze beneath the brim of his cloak. She wondered if she had asked a question she shouldn't have. Fortunately, the returned voice did not seem to have any displeasure at her question. I promised I would return by then. A promise? Ah, you mentioned that earlier, but with whom? Kishi did not respond as swiftly as before to that question. A breeze blew through, causing the cloth that covered his face to flutter. His lips, beneath his revealed nose, seemed to form a slightly different smile than before, but as soon as she opened her eyes, the sight vanished like a mirage.